In 1969, Swami Satchidananda was called to a farm in upstate New York by the organizers of an event that was rapidly and unexpectedly becoming the largest single gathering of young people in American history. Almost 500,000 showed up, 10 times more than had been expected. It was the Woodstock Music Festival, and it was happening as thousands of their generation were being called to fight in Vietnam. Some of the young men in this crowd knew they too would soon be drafted into battle. But this moment wasn't about war. It was about love and music and the peaceful energy Swami Satchidananda was about to bring to the event.
Let all our actions and all our arts express yoga through the sacred art of music. Let us find peace.
When Swami Satchidananda opened the Woodstock Music Festival invoking peace, he inspired a generation of young Americans to see themselves as spiritually valuable and connected to the world. Swami Satchidananda's life of devoted service to humanity, his interfaith message of peace and compassion, attracted thousands of idealistic young people. Some of them were inspired to dedicate their lives to follow his teachings. They attended yoga classes, joined integral yoga centers, and learned how to teach yoga. In 1975, Swami Satchidananda gave initiation to the first group of integral yoga monks. This film celebrates their joyful lives of service to humanity and brings you close up to one of them, Swami Karunananda.
We have had the great good fortune to have seen him, to have heard his voice, and to have responded to his call. In a way, we're all like mountain climbers trying to climb this great mountain to the goal. And it's hard. It's the hardest climb there is. But if we link arms, our combined strength can get us all there. And in our weaker moments, someone else who's stronger will help to carry us. And then we can carry them sometime later down the line. I remember that moment very well. My mind was totally still, totally at rest, totally peaceful. But if you asked me how I felt, what was in my heart, it was an overwhelming sense of gratitude to be blessed with this opportunity to lead a life dedicated to finding that true peace within myself, and then doing all that I could within my capacity to share that with others.
As a young Swami, she was regarded as quiet, almost withdrawn, and then she started to blossom into leadership.
My favorite times are when she gives a talk. I love her ability to care and share through her talks, her writings, and it is a true gift.
You climb a mountain and look out at the vista. You feel such peace. And usually we attribute the peace to the view. The view is giving me peace. Actually, what is happening internally, because of the view, the mind temporarily stops all its chatter. And the peace you feel is coming from within your very own heart.
Swami Karunananda became a leading exponent of every aspect of integral yoga, spreading Swami Satchidananda's teachings of interfaith compassion, kindness, self-awareness, physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being.
I am brought back to my initial meeting with Sri Swami Satchidananda, which was in 1970 on an integral yoga retreat. He personally instructed us in Hatha Yoga, pranayama, and meditation, and taught us how to maintain balance and ease as we moved through life. What he said was great, but it paled beside all that he embodied, because he not only articulated the teachings, he exemplified them. And in his presence, one felt a peace, a love, a stability, just something great that called to your inner heart. I looked at him and I thought, he's got what I want.
I've known Swami Karunanandaji for 50 years now.
He recalls an integral yoga trip to India.
She shined so bright during that trip. She was asked to speak at different venues, and she was brilliant. It was something like magical to behold. And I could feel how Gurudev was so proud and fulfilled watching his daughter that way.
The mantra forms a shield of protection around you. I experienced this early on in my path when I was living in Connecticut at our ashram. So this day I was taking a walk in a new area. It was pretty deserted. And along the way, I noticed to my right, up on a hill, a very large dog. And I recognized him as one that had attacked several of the men at the ashram. And as I was noticing him, he was noticing me. And in the next moment, he started charging down that hillside toward me. There was no one around, no one to help me, nowhere to go. So I clasped my hands in front of me, and sort of as a last resort, I looked up and I said, well, Lord, there's this big dog that's heading my way, looking like he's going to hurt me. So if it is your will that I be attacked by a vicious dog, the opportunity is fast approaching. And I began very vigorously repeating my mantra. And sure enough, the dog came right at me. And he kept charging at me, but he never touched me. He kept opening his jaws and placing them over my clasped fingers, but he never made contact. He followed me a while in this manner and then ran off.
Before the pandemic, students would come from around the world to hear her.
The compassion and wisdom and strength you see in Karunanandaji's eyes, that's what you see in her life. She serves with total dedication, with excellence, and with such a caring heart. She serves with great integrity and tirelessly. Integral yoga is not just about teachings that are on the pages of the integral yoga texts or in her articles or in her book or in her talks. Integral yoga is about what we do and how we do things in our daily lives. And Karunanandaji exemplifies those teachings in her very life.
I remember once hearing her say that we don't feel the spinning of the earth. We don't feel the rotation around the sun, but yet we know it's happening. And it was such a beautiful metaphor for knowing the truth of our existence, the energy that surrounds us, the love of the universe, and the sense of the divine that lives within and around us.
I'll never forget the 3 weeks I spent with her in a Raja Yoga teacher training course. It was amazing, and to me, she was the guru in feminine form. It was a spectacular 3 weeks full of magic and spiritual depth. It was as if she was the embodiment of the wisdom that she was imparting, that she knew what she was talking about from experience, and she brought us along with her to that height.
The author Avi Gordon interviewed Swami Karunananda for the Integral Yoga podcast. It was an illuminating experience.
Instantly, you're grabbed by her presence and her ability to be in the moment with you. She's not anywhere else. She's right there. And you feel that.
Each one of us is created special and unique for a purpose. And if we weren't needed in this creation, the breath would stop filling our lungs. You make me think of a little story from the Ramayana, one of India's great epics. Sita, the wife of Lord Rama, was kidnapped and taken to Sri Lanka. So to rescue her, Rama decided to build a bridge from India to Sri Lanka. So all the great bears and all the great and powerful monkeys came to help Rama build his bridge. And as they were in the midst of the work, they noticed this little creature, this little chipmunk that somehow was scrambling between their feet, between their efforts, carrying little twigs and little leaves and depositing them on the pile. And it was so fervent and energetic that it caught everyone's attention. And they all stopped and they were watching this little creature. And one of them started laughing and said, "Little chipmunk, what do you think you're doing?" And the chipmunk said, "I'm helping Rama build his bridge." And they all laughed at him and said, "What sort of contribution do you think you're making? I mean, the pathetic little twigs and leaves that you're adding, what can that do?" At that point, Lord Rama came, picked up the little chipmunk, and stroked him in blessing, because that little chipmunk was giving every ounce of heart, energy, capacity that he had, and he drew the attention of the divine and God's grace. And they say that's why the chipmunk to this day has stripes. And on reflecting on that story, what I thought was, okay, they're all bringing big boulders and big trees, but what's the glue that's holding them together? And probably those little leaves and those little twigs, when wet and moistened, became like the paste or the grout that held the whole bridge together. Sometimes our contributions are invisible when it comes to their force and impact in the world, but that doesn't make them not important. In fact, in life we see sometimes the invisible is more powerful than the visible. Compare an atom to a bullet. A bullet can do so much harm, an atom so much tinier, if you harness it in the wrong way, can do millions of times more harm.
Her heart is so sweet. When she talks to you, she looks into your eyes and she talks straight to your heart. Her eyes, her gaze cut straight to your soul. Now, about funny stories, she can get very goofy and very funny.
What I do remember is just that sense of joy and delight and mischief. And you can still see that mischief in Karunananda's eyes today.
Karunananda loves to be outside taking walks and talking with people and enjoying those kinds of things. And I don't think people realize how much she just loves being able to talk to people as they just happen to be, instead of just being in the teaching situation.
To begin, take in some air Press your right nostril with the thumb, closing it off, and exhale through the left.
Her genuine expertise in the science of yoga, acquired over half a century, allows her to undergo root canal dental surgery without anesthesia.
Root canal without Novocaine, yeah. And I don't have a high pain tolerance. I feel the pain. I went through many of them. I didn't want to put unnecessary drugs in my body. I didn't want to dull my mind, the breath, and prayer.
And you got through root canal?
Root canals, difficult
Multiple.
ones, and colonoscopies.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
How did you do that? Or is that inexplicable on a film?
No, it's not inexplicable. The breath is powerful. When you cultivate a relationship with it, it's like an ally. It's not like simply a formal technique that you do when you sit down to do your seated practice. It's something you can use to deal with stress, to deal with challenges, focusing on the breath and then regulating it. And then visualizing it, going to the pain, releasing the pain. And then realizing that the pain happens moment by moment. And if you're in the moment, it can transmute. It doesn't have to be interpreted as pain. When you think about it, sometimes pleasure involves intense sensation, but we somehow choose to interpret that pleasure as pleasure. Pain is intense sensation. You can train your mind to deal with it moment to moment. It's my experience, too, that if we're able to stay in the moment, we have the wherewithal to deal with what is happening. When we think of the past, even what happened a moment ago, or anticipate the future, that's when it becomes overwhelming.
One warm day in a building near the Lotus Interfaith Shrine in Yogaville, Swami Satchidananda was being interviewed by a reporter. Karunananda was also in the room.
Shortly after the interview began, this huge praying mantis entered the room. It jumped in, huge, bright green. And from the moment it entered the room, it was staring directly at Sri Gurudev. And I'm the only one that notices this. And they're talking, and he takes another big leap, all the time staring at Sri Gurudev. They're talking, not noticing anything. He leaps again, he leaps again. After several minutes, he's right at Sri Gurudev's foot, and he's looking up at his face all the while. They're supposedly not seeing anything. He takes another leap. He's on his calf, all the while looking up at his head. Bright green on his orange robe, hard to miss. He kept looking up at Sri Gurudev, took another leap. He's up here. I'm beginning to panic. They're talking back and forth. He takes another leap. He's right here. Takes another leap. He's sitting right on the shoulder. They're still talking like nothing's happening. And he's looking right at Gurudev's face like that. And I know without any doubt that the next leap is going to look like this. So I said, Karunananda, you've got to make your move now. It's now or never. So I jump up, and as gently and inconspicuously as I could, with this large praying mantis like this, ready to leap on his face, I come up and I start to cup my hands around it. Gurudev turns at me like a lion. I'm sure you've all known that lion mood. And he says, "What are you doing? Leave him alone." And he said, "He's come to hear me talk."
Swami Karunananda, now aged 75, continues to teach and write. Over her 50 years of dedicated service, She has held management positions at several integral yoga centers and institutes, and today she plays a significant role in overseeing the ashram.
United with the source on which the yogis ever dwell, grants desires and liberation, salutations to the Om.
Brahmanandam Paramasugatam Kevalam